to another episode of Pulse of Polynesia. I'm your host, Leaso, joined by my incredible co-host, High Talking Chief, Tussie. And together we're excited to bring you another powerful conversation rooted in culture, community, and courage. And as always, we've got our Pulse of Polynesia team working hard behind the scenes, monitoring your comments, feedbacks, and questions across our live platforms. So keep them coming. From humble beginnings to over 16 years of service, they've turned visions into movements, all while raising families, working 9 to 5s, and staying tuned to the heart of service. True to the heart of service. If you're ever wondering what passion and perseverance look like in action, you're about to find out. So tonight we've got the hot seat ready and energy turned all the way up. Because joining us are two dynamic women, the powerhouse duo behind Samoan Solutions, Faga and Epi. Welcome, ladies, and happy
Salaf
Mother's
Lava.
Day.
Yeah, welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Happy Mother's Day to all the
Yeah,
moms
really
out
happy
there.
Mother's Day. And to
Well,
everyone
before
out
we,
there.
well, yeah, and to everyone out there, welcome. Happy Mother's Day. Let's get started by can you both introduce yourselves and tell us your role with Samoan Solutions?
All right, my name is Fanga Misa. I am a co-founder of Samoan Solutions. I am a mother to 4 children and a wife, and I also am a daughter um, of Samoa, and I reside here in the Bay Area, California.
Okay.
Greetings, alofa lava, everyone. My name is Epi Leonel Mavai. I am Fanga's baby sister. I am a believer, mother of two wonderful young ladies, and extended mom to many beautiful nieces and nephews all over the place. I am the one of 4 co-founders of Samoan Solutions. I'm an educator, and I'm super happy to be here, coming live from Oakland, California.
Oakland.
Yay, awesome. Well, we're so happy to have both of you on and grateful that you both can join us before the Mother's Day celebration tomorrow. And I guess you guys are probably going to start after this. I hope so. Mm. So, ladies, Samoan Solution, tell us about, I believe that it's a 16 years of service. So tell us how it all started.
Epi, you're up. Go for it.
I try to just move my eyes and see if she'll jump first. So, yeah, like I think we're like 16, 17 years in now. We started initially because we wanted to host an Samoan Arts and Cultural Festival in San Mateo County. Um, because there wasn't one happening. And when we convened with different community leaders, we realized pretty quickly that what the community needed at the time was something more impactful than a one-off event. And so Samoan Solutions spiraled into really just a responsive community organization that exists to really just support our Pacifica people here in the diaspora in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Mm, awesome. Effie, when you said that was there a shortage of programs out there to help our Pacifica people as far as, when you mentioned like these programs, what was it that stood out to you the most of all the things, the challenges that were going on with our people back in San Francisco? What was it that motivate the both of you to come together and decide to start something that's not very easy to start?
So I think one of the biggest eye openers for us was just hearing the data on where our people were at that time, economically, academically, socially. There was a lot of violence that was happening in our community, both Pacific Islanders against Pacific Islanders at the time. There was really high suicide rates or suicide ideology rates in our Pacific Islander community, and so that's really what inspired us to dig a little bit deeper and see really what this could be in order how we could provide what could we do, right? We're like, so everybody is looking to someone. They're like, it would be great if we could have this, it would be great if we can have this. We're like, well, we're really not, who is we that we're waiting for, right? We're looking around like nobody's helping us. And at that time there really was probably one organization that specifically serve Pacific Islanders here in San Francisco, and that's the Samoan Community Development Center
Mhm.
here in the Bay Area. And then there was also Taulamo for Tongans, which is another group that was working in the same county that we were actually living in, and the Tongan Interfaith Collaborative. And so everyone pretty much kind of had their own special wheelhouse that they were in. And so we really just tried to be resourceful with what we could offer because we were all working. So we are like, let's just try and get to the work and be able to support our people wherever we can. Just really, in that sense, it really made it kind of easy for us to identify where we could put where we wanted to allocate our resources to.
Right. You
I
know,
got a quick question.
go ahead.
You mentioned there was only other one group that was
Mhm.
helping the Samoan or the Polynesian community. Was it was it because they a failure rate on the others who were before you guys? Like they just like couldn't really exist beyond a certain period of time, or what is your assessment? Um, why wasn't such a thing? Why didn't it exist among the Polynesian people? Was there not unity amongst the different Polynesians?
That's a good question. I'll go ahead and answer that one. I think what it is for us at the time, what we were used to seeing is that our faith communities and churches were the go-to place for a lot of things. It's kind of like the village here in the States, right? But once you have folks who are either disconnected from their churches, or maybe they're not comfortable with going and seeking services at a church or things like that, then people are not being served, right? And also, like, while the churches have a really good charitable cause and they're like the ready-made organization, it's the responsibility to carry our people in every aspect is not necessarily limited to just them only, because we have so many well-established churches, right? And I think it's just one of those things where we did have people in like civic organizations or working for different entities, but they were not necessarily operated and run for our people, right? And then there there are some longstanding organizations that have been in other cities, or like, because our county, San Mateo County, is like a suburb of San Francisco. We're not really like in the downtown, right? So we're kind of adjacent, right? Like, we're close, but it's not close enough where our people are going to get in their car and drive over to the next county to be served, right? So it was kind of like just like a big thing for our people, like geographic wise, and just like we just didn't have enough folks set up in all the different counties and locations to make services like readily accessible by and be offered by our own people, right? Like, you can go and find these services offered through the county, offered through the state, through the cities, right? But our people, we're just kind of breaking into the nonprofit realm as far as grassroots organizing goes, right?
And I think to just add on to what Fanga said too, I don't think it was a failure necessarily, but it definitely was a lack of knowledge and
Mhm.
systems, right? You tell our people that somebody needs help, we show up, full force. Transitioning that into something, into a nonprofit type of structure was just not something that we knew how to do. A lot of us knew how to do at the time. So it was really challenging for people to try and figure out and navigate how to become a 501c3, how to grow a nonprofit at that time. And I think not having that knowledge accessible, uh, it really was a barrier for folks. And so they just needed to see somebody else try and jump out there and do it that would be down to, just welcome anybody who was interested in learning. And so we were thankful enough that we had some folks who they from Asian American Recovery Services, and they were down to just like they helped us. They were we had great mentors that were able to kind of show us the way, and Bucky early he told us very early on. He was like one of the leaders at the time that said you have to build the system properly in order for it to be able to continue on. If you want to build something that's going to live past you and Fanga. And so that's kind of what we've been focused on doing. And like 16 years ago, there wasn't a lot of us, and now there's many Pacific Islanders serving and operated nonprofits here in the Bay, and it's such a beautiful time to be part of. People knowing who we are, not necessarily always having to explain this is the need, this is why we're here, this is why we exist, because now we're on people's radar. And so it makes it a little bit more easier to navigate and to be able to serve.
Yeah.
Job well done.
Mhm.
Laying the foundation for others, and they'll always remember you guys as the foundation that you know all these subsequent organizations will say, yeah, it began with them. So,
Mhm.
and I know you guys are still continuing to sharing that knowledge and training the new ones that come along. So, we'll come back to have you guys explaining like the process for the 501c later on. But go ahead, Leaso.
One thing I forgot to mention is that we're all Leone High School alumni. So that's pretty amazing. So what's up, everybody? Um, it's part about being able to see some of our classmates and alumni from Leone High School is actually see that you guys are doing outside of the box type of work. And creating a nonprofit organization is not really easy, and there's a lot of challenges that come with it. And you mentioned that, right? I wanted to ask you regards to when you guys started up, how did you both decide to join as team? It's always hard when you're working with your own sibling and family. So how did you come about with the both of you teaming up as partners? And whose idea was it first?
I think we were just like at the time we were kind of like at the same place in life, like young moms, wives, working, stuff like that. But if anybody that knows Epi and I knows that when like growing up, we're like oil and water. Like there was
Mm,
never like um our relationship was just interesting as siblings in general. And but I think that once we matured and became parents and young adults, like we found more things in common than we
mhm,
had differences, right? So it made it easy for us to kind of like um, work together, but also like our family in Samoa, our families here locally too, they really modeled to us how to work together, right?
mhm,
And I think that that's probably something that they had always wanted for us. But as kids, you don't really, it's like in one ear, out the other ear, right? And you're just like, you kind of think to yourself, like, what do I need that for? Or what do I need that person for? Or why should I do that, right? And then you grow up and you realize that these are the values that your families they've been modeling it to you all this time, so
mhm,
now it's your turn to step up and work together, right?
mhm. So let me ask a question in regards to when you guys started your business. There's always a business plan, and so as you're going, it's kind of like parenting. You don't have a manual for it, kind of. So you have all these different programs within your nonprofit organization. Which was the first one? Because you have Luminai, you have Ta'iala, and you have Pacifica. So which was the first one, and why was that very important? And how did the rest trickle down as you continued over the years? And tell us about it
Fama,
as well.
Our first program that we built out, I believe, was the Illuminati Education Gift. Is that right, Fawn?
Yeah, it might have been. I think
Yeah.
before that, we were mostly going around learning from others and watching what other folks were doing and seeing what the need was. But yeah, that might have been like the first legitimate program.
So
And
when you set
that
up Illuminati, what was that program that you modeled after?
Mm.
What did you pick up?
so we started Illuminati because there was a Samoan family whose student had got accepted to a private high school, and they were looking for resources to help them cover the tuition. And so we're like, okay, well, let's see what's out there. And when we looked, there was really very, very limited options for financial assistance or scholarship wise for our Pacific Islander people, and then just for people in general. Like it was very, very competitive and such a small amount of scholarships that were offered. And so that's really how Illuminati came about. We're like, well, okay, well, we can't find anything that exists. We know education is something that we get behind all the way. And so, how can we build out something that not only is supportive of our students, that allows people to support our students locally, but allows people globally to be able to invest in the academic successes and dreams of our youth. And so that's really how Illuminati started. We were intentional about calling it a gift, because that meant that if for our seniors going into 2 year 4 year university, they didn't have to claim it on their financial aid applications as funding that could potentially disqualify them from receiving additional
Wow.
grants and
Right.
financial aid.
Great
And
move.
so
Yeah.
that's why we call it the Illuminati Education Gift, because it really is just a gift that's crowdfunded every year by the community. We put it out on social media, and then we open the gift up to our Samoan students, a drop or a lot, and artists now here in the Bay Area to be able to apply. And then the program itself has evolved over the years to offer different categories based on the need. So the first category that we extended to initially was open to eighth grade students entering into a private high school, obviously, because that was the initial ask, and
Mhm.
then high school seniors going into a 2 or 4 year university. And then the first year that we offered Luminati, when we looked at the caliber of writing, we realized that we wanted to extend the gift out to our middle schools, all of our middle school students, so that they can start to familiarize themselves with creating a scholarship application and writing for a scholarship application. Because on our side, we identify that that's an area where we could, where we needed some more support in. So then it was open. It's open to all middle school students for an in-kind gift, which is typically a gift card. And then we've extended it out to offer support for uh, students who are graduating from a community college and entering into a university as transfer students. Again, because we have the College of San Mateo Community College as well as City College of San Francisco. Both of them are Pacific Islander ethnic studies. They feed into UH Manoa, I believe.
Hmm.
And so there
Wow.
was something specific that happened with our students out there. And they're like, they have a circle wraparound support where they're when they're here in community college by our Pacific Islander student associations. But then when they were transferring over to UH, it wasn't the same. And then they were out there without, with intense schedules and a lack of access to funding. And so it grew again. And we offered it, that category. Sekio Fuapopo is one of our longtime board members, and he's a native son artist, also from Leone. And so, because he is an artist, he said, "Okay, it's time for us to extend a gift to instill and inspire our creatives." And so that then it became the Luminati our education gift category was opened up. And I think that's all the categories. Over the years, we've awarded about what how many Illuminati recipients, Fanga?
We're at like 46 over the last
Wow.
16 years.
Mm.
We have a bunch of them, like probably 19 of them that have gone on to college and universities. And then we also, in like probably like 8 different states. And then we also have some of them who are still in, they're still in high school and haven't yet transitioned to college because they were awarded when they were younger, like when they were in middle school. So we have, yeah, there's a good amount of students from the Bay Area that are past Illuminati scholars.
When you say awarded, you're talking about they've got the scholarship, but they can't use it until it's time for them to go to college. Is that correct?
No, or well, actually, that's partially correct for students who are seniors going to college or college going transferring to university. But for the middle school kids and the kids that are going to private
Private
high
school.
school, they
Okay.
they get their award in the. I mean, everybody gets their award in the year that they're selected.
Is
So
there
you
a
can get
limit that you guys have for these
seven
Yeah.
to eight.
students?
Oh, say that again,
Is
Arlington.
there a funding cap? So let's say you're in middle school, you received a scholarship to go to high school. Are you still eligible again, like going to the next level?
You are, and we've had students who've applied at multiple levels
Okay.
throughout their life, and which is actually really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And we love to see it when they come back around. Or the other thing we see too is they will have siblings who apply for the gift as well, and it's such a great it's such a great way to see community being built, you know, because then now they're like college students, and some of them are founding their own organizations at this
Yeah.
time, you know. So it's really awesome to see, and then it's also amazing for the students who to know, because every year we tell them like, this is how many people all across the world invested in you. You know, they believe in you and how far you can go in your academics, and this is where they're from. And so we always have an opportunity for them to be able to meet the donors who are local when we award them.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
such a
that is
blessing indeed.
hmm
Student loans, yeah, they're great, but anything to offset that financial cost, oh my God, especially for our Samoan people. I know when I was going through, it's kind of similar to what you guys said. A lot of it is either you exhaust your efforts researching something that's applicable to you. I know when I was trying to apply for scholarships or any grants, during my college years, everything that was available was like Hawaiian this, Hawaiian that, and so I wasn't really eligible. So you end up taking out, student loans. Uh, yeah, exactly what you guys have shared there. So a lot of those students, definitely a blessing to them.
hmm just adding to the scholarship because, just like Arlington said, it's very difficult. And it's a beautiful thing that you guys were able to open up access for our Polynesian people because when it says only for certain cultures, we don't get a lot for Tongan Samoans and so being able to have that opportunity only open up the minds of all of our children to say, hey, you have funding here that can help you and it even alleviates the stress on the parents. I'm going to ask it, is there a criteria for qualifying for these scholarships? The gifts, we call it gifts. What are the criteria that are needed in order for them to qualify for the educational gifts?
So really, they just have to be like meet eligibility for their categories. Like, so if they're in middle school, they can apply for that category, and then they have to be Samoan descent, residing in any of the 9 Bay Area counties.
Okay,
And then even like the Samoan descent part, it's when Epi said a drop or a lot, we're not looking at blood quantum. It's literally like if you know you're Samoan, then you are, right? Like then you are. It doesn't matter if it's like your third grade grandparent, like you're still Samoan, so you're still eligible,
okay,
right? So and then the application process is really just like submit an application and write an essay If you're in like the college or the high school level or the college level, you need to have letters of recommendation. If you're going to private high school, you need to have acceptance letters. So
Mm.
you need to have some proof that you've actually been accepted to that institution. And yeah, but the criteria is not really that. Oh, actually, and I think there is a GPA criteria, but it's not like you have to be 4.0. Like
Okay.
the rating is, obviously if your GPA is higher, then you might get a few more points than someone who's got a 2.5. But I think it's like 2.5 or 2.0. Like at least you're at least passing school,
Mm.
right? So that way you still have the opportunity to apply.
Awesome. Oh, let's see. There is, let me just read this comment. Hi sis, Fanga and Epi have always been super proud of you too and Samoan Solutions from the very beginning. Keep up the great work for our Samoan community. Love you, sis. Love your sis in Hawaii. Your sis in Hawaii. Okay. And she goes by unbothered. So what brought up, as far as scholarship, let's jump into Ta'iala, right? How did that come about? This is very interesting. We talked about some of the things on here last night's testing, but I want you guys to tell us how the Ta'iala came about in Someone Solutions.
So we've always dreamed of creating a pathway like this where we're able to help our youth here in the Bay Area experience Samoa for themselves in their own timing. And I think one of the reasons why that was always on our heart is because we realized that many of the hardships, or when we're trying to track it back, a lot of them were stemming from our people not having access to their identity, having access to their culture. So by blood, we're Pacific Islander, we're Samoan, and everybody knows us as that. But there's also street culture, Bay Area culture. And out of those two, the one that they have access to the most to tell them who they are is street culture. And so they have very few opportunities to learn about who they are as a Samoan. Um, and that comes along with a lot of the different disparities that our people face as far as economic wise, parents working multiple jobs, family structure changing and shifting from what it typically is in the island, not having access to a village, village support here. And so we've always had it on our heart that we wanted to create a way for our kids to go home. And then I think it was last year, um, we were like, it'll never be the right timing, it'll never be like, we don't see, we'll never have, like, the funding all the way secure. Let's just do it and build it and see what happens. And we're so thankful that we did, because these last two cohorts that we've taken back home have just been amazing.
Can you tell us some of the experience that they had out there? Because I know it must have changed the youth from being in America for their whole life and being able to go to the islands to see a whole new different perspective. Can you share some of that with us of how the program has helped the kids who have gone on this program?
Sure. It's a whole lot in just 2 weeks. So the program is offered as an extended spring break to our Pacific Islander youth who are ages 14 to 24. When we were ready to jump, we called our sister in Samoa, Maluseo Doris
Mhm.
Sulifao. She's from here in the Bay Area, and she founded the organization Brown Girl Woke that operates in Samoa. And so her team, under her leadership, really built out an amazing itinerary that's pretty packed from start to finish. So our youth are experiencing Samoa in such a way that they probably wouldn't get the same opportunity to experience. And I think it's hard to identify specific moments, but it isn't. I guess just for sake of time, like there was a few. Like one of them, like one of our boys last year, he was like, "Oh, my grandparents are gonna come and meet me at the airport." My mom said, "But I've never met them." Okay,
Wow.
and then we're in the line in customs. Oh my God, that they're my grandparents are there, and the old man just is sitting there cheesing, like with the biggest smile on his
Oh,
face,
Mm.
and and then the kid is like, I don't know if I want to go. I don't know because I don't know. I've never met them before. I'm like, well, they're here, and his aunt had actually flown over from Kukuila to also greet him, and so like you gotta go. There's no, they wanted to take him first from the airport and take him to the village. His grandparents are out in a village in Upolu, past Faleolo, and so when he finally came back to the Airbnb, he was so emotional and he was like, "Oh my God, Auntie, they followed me and my sister's life, our whole entire life. They have photos on their wall from our football games, from our school. All this time they've been following our life and we didn't even know." And then every time after that there was an opportunity for him to go, he was gone. He was there with his grandparents, spending time with his cousins and his family. So that was beautiful. Such a beautiful thing to witness. And I think there's a lot of great experiences that they go through, but I think one of the biggest things is like those moments like that just are like tugging on my heartstrings.
Yeah.
Another one of our nieces, she was so excited when we opened the program. She said, "Oh my gosh, I can finally spend my birthday with my grandma." Because I've only met her on FaceTime, and every year they would, FaceTime on Facebook and wish each other a happy birthday. And so unfortunately, the month before we were about to leave, her grandmother passed away. And she was gutted. She was so heartbroken. And when we were in the village, um, the
Mhm.
Brown Girl Woke staff, they didn't know. And one of their staff members said, "Oh, called her out and said, I want you to come meet somebody." And he took her into the house and introduced her to the matriarch of the village, and she sang over her. She blessed her, and our girl was in tears. She's coming back to the Farkele, and I'm looking at her like, "Are you okay? Like, what's going on?" And she was like, "Oh my gosh, I just felt like this was just exactly what I needed. I felt like I was experiencing my grandma's love through this woman who has no idea who I am, and it was just such a beautiful experience. Moments like that, watching people, interact with their family. We had our niece. She was able to come this year, and she was able to see our family gravesite, and none of us had met. I think only my older sister and our three older siblings had met our grandmother because she passed away before we left. And this she came and she bought, our dad, he's very heavy. He's like, on these things, "I want you to bring candy for the kids in the village, and I want you to go visit all of our ancestors and bring them gifts." So she said, "Auntie, I got it. I want to buy all the gifts for all
Oh,
of our family members. I just need you to take me there." So, of course, the first stop we go to Makauku, where our grandmother is laying, and she would not get away from the grave. She was just bawling her eyes out, telling her, "I can't believe I waited this long to come and see you, Grandma. Your son is being a little bit better with his health. Just updating her on all the things." And mind you, it's hot. It is so hot, and she's just laid out there on our grandmother's kukumao, and just like, "I just can't believe I'm here. I can't believe I'm meeting, seeing where our grandma's laid." And it was the same experience that she had when we went to Savai'i, and she was able to see where her great grandfather is buried in
wow.
Savai'i too. So all those moments with family are beautiful, and everything in between is just as amazing.
Wow. Wow.
last night you
You know,
shared with us
mhm.
the appreciation they learned because growing up in the States, you, like you guys said, they face their own hardships. But then you also mentioned last night, I enjoyed the story that you shared that when they got to Samoa, they seen a different type of hardship that Samoan kids go through. And I think you've also mentioned they gained an appreciation to say, wow, I thought my life was tough in the States, but geez, like look at what these Samoan kids are going through. And I think they go ahead and share that story again for our viewers. I think it's a beautiful way to explain an eye-opening experience for someone from the States to go to Samoa and experience what like we grew up in Samoa experience, but it's not something
Yeah.
commonly seen for our stateside folks.
And before you even say anything, let me just add to so that everyone else who's watching, this is expenses that's coming out of their own pocket.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not cheap, it's not easy. And the fact that both women and their staff have to spend time within their own hours with it away from their family after their 9 to 5 hour job to put this all together and communicate with those different time frames. It's not that easy. And so go ahead and share that story so that others can hear it and the impact that your program is doing to help so many of our youth and our people out there.
I think yeah, there was just so many opportunities for them to recognize their privilege, so to speak, right? I think one of the very first instances is when we visited. The first thing on the itinerary both years was to visit the Samoa tourist um, STA. I think Samoan Tourism Affairs is what it stands for. And so basically that's where they have different Samoas and they all have different activities. Or so you're kind of getting a taste, a little bit of taste of Samoan life. So there you're weaving the mailo, you're seeing the dances, hearing the music, experiencing how they do the omu, tasting the food, looking at the hand carvings, visiting in Suruape Tatao if they have sessions. And so that was probably the first thing is that they're like, oh wow, like they can see like the same group of people who are were first like welcoming, greeting, checking us in, then turned around and jumped on the King Palau and on the Kikala and were singing to them. And then they were the same boys who then ran back to the Omu and prepared all of that. And then the women like every and there was probably like I think there and we do the math so that they can really understand. I think that there was like maybe 8 of them, and in our session it was 20 tala per people. I mean 20 tala for the session, and there was 16 people. And so when we checked in that night, we're like, so if you do the math and you see them doing all those positions, and then we convert those dollars to American dollars, like would you do that work? Like, really, would you be okay
Mm-hmm.
with like that is like way below, way, way, way
Right.
below minimum wage. And then they're seeing the street vendors right off the bat. Like, "Fakaso you lava lava, auntie, auntie, fakaso mi viringa, Filkaringa," and they're like, wow, these kids are young. Like, yeah, because they're expected to provide and contribute to their family's economic status at a very young age. And then when we went to Savai'i, we visited with Samata Primary School, and they were that I think that was probably the biggest eye opener for them. There was 193 students enrolled in that school, and they only had 5 teachers. And so when they walked in the classrooms, like the there's 2 grades per classroom, and I believe the only classroom who had desks was the 5th and 6th grade classroom, and there wasn't enough. So there was students who were sitting on the floor and some who were in the desk. Every single one of them, their eyes lit up so bright. They sang to us. They greeted us. They were so excited for us to be there. And our youth were just like, man, we thought our schools were
Mm-hmm.
underfunded and under resourced, and now we really understand what it could look like. And they also observe like, but then these kids are also they have so much joy in their heart. Like they don't feel like they don't identify the lack necessarily because they're not seeing it. This is just their everyday life. This is how they
Mm-hmm.
do. And so, some of our students were like, "Oh my gosh, there's no doors on the bathroom." And they're like, there's no this, there's no that. And in the same breath, when we arrived there, you know, the Puleaonga brought out, you know, they greeted us with ulas, fresh flower ulas. They brought a huge spread out of fresh fruits and poifala to make sure that we were well taken care of when we were there. Like whatever they had, they brought it out for us, and our children, our youth really noticed that um, the struggle that we have is not the same struggle that our families in Samoa are experiencing and live daily.
Hmm.
Amen to that.
I really do love the story that you told us last night. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm gonna switch gears. I want to jump into one of my favorite is the turkey roast. You guys call that the turkey trot, right? And so, um, just for everybody out there, all of our Leone High School, it was inspired, right, by Leone High School. Can you tell us about how that's going with your organization and
Yeah,
how it
so
started? How it started up.
yeah, so the turkey run, Epi and I were part of a group of people who were in like a workout boot camp that was being run by a Pacific Islander group called Pacific Health Club at the time, and and the guy who was our trainer, his name's David Ane. He's from he went to school in Kafuna, and we were just talking about stuff that we do in Samoa, and then were talking about the turkey run. And so then we kind of were like, oh, well, that maybe we can put on something like that here. And Epi and I were like, well, that's your field, Dave, because you're the fit. So like, tell us what to do, and we'll do it. And so yeah, it's a 5K, and that even that like the whole process was like such an education for us because our people that we're big in sports, we're big on a lot of stuff, but like running is not necessarily our thing here in the diaspora. Like our people in Samoa run all the time, like run all over the place, but it's just not something that is really popular here per se. So when we're telling people like, oh, we're gonna put on a 5K, people were calling it a marathon. Our people were talking to each other, talking about it like being a marathon, and then other people like, well, you know how far a marathon is, and then like other people like, no, it's a 5K, and everybody's like, well, I can't run 5 miles, and like we're like, no, 5K is not the same as 5 miles, like so like it was just like a lot of like education for us as the organizers, but even for our community to realize like 5K is only like 3.2 miles or something like that. And also like people have 5Ks here in America, and it's more like for fun. Sometimes it's competitive. Um,
Mhm.
but ours was really just about having an event that we could support charities around the time of Thanksgiving, but also get our people active and moving and doing something fun, whether it's walking or running or jogging or whatever. And
Mhm.
so we kind of modeled it after the Leone High School turkey run, because we remember that as students, like when you come to participate in the turkey run, you have to bring canned goods, you have to bring
Mhm.
food, right? Because those are the prizes. So and then also I think both Epi and myself, we were in student council, and we never got to run in the turkey run in Samoa, but we were always put at the water stations.
Mhm.
And we just remember it being like, it's a fun
Right.
event. So we're like, yeah, you know what, we can do that here. We found a spot by the waterfront. So our 5K, the turkey trot, is over at the Brisbane Marina, which is right along the water. Like it's such a beautiful spot, and we take over the whole parking lot.
Mhm.
Nobody else is there, so it's pretty much become our space. Our people look forward to being there. We started off with like, I don't know, maybe less than 20 people the first year, and we had even fewer people the second year because it rained. And then like it just kind of snowballed into this bigger event because more and more people started to
Yeah.
come. They realized that the proceeds from the event was going to go to charities that are supporting the houseless population and people in need around the holidays. And they knew that they were going to get good prizes. Like you literally go home with a turkey dinner,
Yeah.
and we were giving out T-shirts and all kinds of good stuff. And then now it's kind of like it's a lot bigger than just a fun run, and we have like a at the start finish line we have like a whole health fair. So we have like folks out there who are taking people's blood pressure, doing
Nice.
their glucose check and all that stuff, and giving out resources for health and wellness. And it's just like a good time. We get out there early, and everything's finished before noon. So it's and people know like every year we're gonna have the turkey
Hmm.
trot, and we're gonna get our teams together, and yeah, just go out there and support a good cause and have fun.
And that's the best part about having to do a program like this is because when you start them in the beginning, you don't really get that much traction. But as it continue to go on consistently, it starts to be known. And the best part is that everybody looks forward to an event such as that. And it's also very healthy for our community as well. Effie, you wanted to say something? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to, it's not 1,000% on topic, but I just want to say when we started planning for the turkey trot, I never ran a turkey trot in Samoa, but I was like, oh, let's do this because we owe our class was, I would say now, we're such a community driven class. And not always the most appropriate way. So we didn't run, but we had our good friend, my sister, who I love and rest her soul, Tina Time. She would run every year for us and she would win. And then all of us in our class, a large group of us, we would roll to Fangalele and barbecue her turkey and have such a great community convening there on the water with her turkey and all her canned goods. And then we would, whenever we would turn up afterwards to go back to our house, also shout out to Buya, Waipunga would always back us up. So he'd always tell our parents, yeah, they were with us. They were cleaning up the turkey trot. And so they're like, let's do a turkey trot. I was like, yay, I love turkey trots. And Dave was like, oh, you ran in the turkey? Did you run in the turkey trot? I'm like, nah, but I was always a side beneficiary of the turkey trot.
Nice fun.
Yes. And Dave, Honest Family is actually who owned A&A Pizza in
Oh,
Samoa. If that was around when you guys were
Mm-hmm.
home.
yes. Girl, yes.
Yeah.
I love all the local places that we could go eat at before McDonald's came. A&A Pizza
Hmm.
was the place to go to for me. So,
Yeah, it's
And
good to
the
see to
turkey
have
trot
the
also
roots
was
of
the.
the turkey run having its roots in Leone. For us,
Mhm.
I don't know if Yosta is watching right now, but Yosta for our class seems like he won every year. He was such a great runner.
that's for the guys, right? So, for our class, I won freshman, sophomore, and junior year. And
Period.
then,
Period.
girl, then my other friend showed up and she took it senior year and I got pissed off. My mom was like, what happened to the turkey? Every year we got a turkey. And sure, what happened? I got a turkey, get it all you know, right? I'm like, I just love this.
So, so you're saying you guys had chicken that year? Your mom was disappointed.
And 18 was the day I was to go to.
You took
For
your
the
turkey to go to Fangalele and meet up with these guys over here.
Hey, but at least we
Yeah.
could say like the influence that we have from back home in Leone High School, we were able to take that within our,
Hmm.
our adult life and use that within the community. So that's a good thing. That's a positive thing. I'm gonna
And
shift gears if you guys don't mind. We recently saw a message about the potential location after June 30 due to funding, and this is in regards to Le Malta. First, tell us what Le Malta is, and tell us how you're feeling about that transition.
so Le Malta is affectionately our community space. Um, and it really is that. Like we open up the doors to our people and we have used that space as a place of gathering and growth for our Pacific Islanders here in the Bay Area in so many different ways since we've opened those doors. It houses our Pacifica Malamalama Library, which is a collection of Pacific Islander books and media that it actually is the majority of it is actually our own personal collection. Shout out to our mom. She was always a lover of books, and she kept books all our life. And so um, that's one of the rooms that is in there. And then there's a flex space, which is pretty much like a huge open or not huge, but a good sized warehouse, where we host our Indonesian night market, art galleries. It's a trade, trades workshops in the summer, entrepreneurship programs, our journey to empowerment meets there. Like, and then we have a smaller room that's also the Punao room, which is set for like smaller gatherings. And so we had received a 2 year non-restricted grant, which for those who are not in the nonprofit world, um, just so you guys know, a lot of the funding that is offered to nonprofits is very specific to programs. So it's meant for launching programs or to help develop programs and grow programs. But there's very little funding that's offered unrestricted or in support of operations. And so we were able to be recipients of this specific grant because someone in the community, amazing community leader who we didn't even know we were on her radar. She had her and one of her colleagues, they had nominated us. And then they called and were like, "You guys got this." And when
Wow.
we realized that, we were like, "Okay, well, we have always been a volunteer based organization. Like maybe it's time for us to bring somebody on." And then when we looked at it was $100,000 the first year and then 50,000 for the second year. When we looked at that and did the math, it really didn't make sense for us to be able to hire on someone because we couldn't sustain the position. And we didn't want to offer a position and then tell them, okay, after 2 years or after the first year, we're going to have to let you go or substantially reduce your income. And so, as an organization, we decided to put it towards having a space for our people to convene. And because we don't have space. That's always been a challenge for our people. As an organization, for the first 15 years of our operations, we would go to any community space. We were renting spaces. We would partner with people who had space, and so we're like, let's put it towards having a facility for our Pacific Islander people to gather and grow and know that it's run and operated by us. So your money is, continuously going right back into the community um, to help keep our doors open. And so we are now at the tail end of that grant,
Mhm.
and we've exhausted any options for grant funding last year, and not exhausted in the sense that there was none left. It was just we exhausted our own personal capacity to write grants for last year, and so that's why we are now in a place right now where we're back looking for grants to help keep our doors open, but we have not secured sustainable funding to move past the June or our lease date, which
Mm.
is June of this year. And so it's tough. It's tough to build something now with your whole heart, from the ground up, and know that our community needs this space. They deserve this space. And then not to be able to have like solid footing, in order and to have a solid plan. And so Fanga was pushing me to like, she was like, I need you to announce it before you leave to Samoa with the Tayala program. And it took all of me to like just sit down and write the announcement and put it out to the community. And not because you know, not because we were ashamed of anything, but really just because my heart was breaking. It was
Mhm.
literally like, this just can't be, we can't not have spaces for our people anymore, And so, also while we were out there, I made the announcement and then I didn't look at it. And then I couldn't because we were in travel. And Fanga called me once I was there. I think it was the second day we were there, and she's like, "Oh my gosh," she's telling me, you know, this friend is hitting this up. They're going to join the board. This person is doing this. My babies who are in our program, they're high school kids messaging us, Auntie, I want to, let me write the grant. I'll write a grant for us. You know, I'll do what I can. You know, our brother Petey and Jordan, they're like, we'll collab and do this T-shirt, and you know, we'll do it so that you guys don't have to have very limited, you know, very minimal hands-on with the project, so that way, you know, it's just they're finding ways basically to help uh come up with solutions that you know are honestly could be a lot more sustainable versus us receiving, like, you know, donations. So yeah, it's been tough. It's been tough, and the world still moves, right?
Yeah.
So it's like every emotion in community work, we're experiencing every emotion on top of each other. There's like, oh my gosh, we're having this amazing trip in Sayala, and we don't know what's happening with Limalta. And we just
Yeah.
have an amazing Anganu, and we don't know if you know, we're gonna be able to do this X, Y, and Z. And so yeah, it's tough, but not impossible.
Yes. You know, I always say that, like I always tell my kids, I don't ever want you guys to be comfortable ever. And so if you find yourself comfortable, you need to do something else. And so I feel like the challenges that we go through is to help us to find something better. And so with that said, what can the community do to keep Limalta vision open? And what can we do to help to spread the word out? Like the podcast is one thing, but what can those who are listening, what can they do to help? Is there a way that they can donate? Is there a way that they can, just tell us what can we do?
Yeah, so we have a lot of different ways that people can help. Like, obviously, like the easiest way that people can help, especially if you don't live locally, is through donations. And what we know just from data from like um, nonprofits all around the United States is that like 67% of giving or like funding that nonprofits receive is from donations, like from individuals and folks who are connected to the mission, who see the vision, people who care, people in the community. So that like that's the easiest way for people to support, is to make a donation. But we also like have a really big need for folks who, like, grant writing is their wheelhouse. Like, if you have time and you have capacity to support, you know like the cycles, the grant funding cycles and things like that, and you can come on board as a member, and support us in that way, like that's always helpful. And then um, let's see, we also, oh yeah, we're another thing that we realized, like, and we've known this for a while, is that we have really strong relationships with people in within the Pacific Islander community, but we're not really good at getting out there and being visible just beyond the Pacific Islander community. So if there are people in our area that can, visit different cities and county entities and speak on our behalf and let folks know what the needs are for our community, and help us get allocations, or seek space, look out for spaces that are affordable and sustainable for our people, then that's always helpful too, because our group is pretty much all volunteer based, and so every free spare minute we have is already being given to the general operations of Samoan Solutions. And so we can always use help from folks who might have the time and also have the expertise and the resources,
Yeah.
and the connections and things like that. So those things go a long way. And then probably the last way that people can help is, because the space is a community space, like we've been really good about using it, making it available for folks to rent and like sublease the space. If they're having party, like if you're having a graduation coming up, a baby shower, a birthday party, like anything like that, if you reserve our space and book with us to have your party, it helps keep the funds within the community, right? And you know that, okay, I have a need for, a venue space to do this or that. And if you rent with us, not only are our rates pretty affordable, but the money will go straight into our rent, so stuff like that. Those are always really helpful for us.
And also, if you know anyone who just has a building that
Mm,
just wants to gift a building, hey,
yeah,
we're ready.
yeah.
So,
I
what
think
is
that's
the
very. Oh, go
feedback
ahead. Go
so
ahead,
far?
Arlington.
Have you had any feedback so far from the Polynesian community, especially the
Mm.
Samoan community? What have they said so far when you approach them about lending a hand and trying to keep this building?
So definitely, they don't want to see it. They don't want to see us close our doors, right? And so they're really trying to identify for themselves what do they have the ability to do and how can they help. And so Fanga and I, like, I think on Monday I was literally like in 10 meetings from the time I got out of school all the way through to like almost 11 o'clock at night, just because we're trying to walk through with partners and community members who really want to support, but they're just not sure how or what they can do. And so we're meeting one on one with people to try and identify how we can strengthen our access to funding to keep La Malta open. So the response has definitely been super supportive by our community. And again, it's not for like it's definitely not that people don't want to help. It's that same thing from when we first started. People just don't know how. People don't know how, and so they're trying to figure things out. And even for us, like when we decided that we were going to put money towards this space, we're like, so um Sango, rest in love. He had come to us early on in Samoan Solutions and said, and he had these plans drawn out, and he said, I would like you guys to help us with outreach to build this center for our people here in the Bay Area. And it was beautiful. It was the schematics were designed to fit an abandoned building in South San Francisco, and in his lifetime he didn't see it happen. And then when we opened the Malta, the flex space in the room is named after Ace, and we keep those plans up in the space because if it doesn't come through us, we still want to see that vision happen, right? We still want to see it come to life. And so when we decided to just rent a facility versus renting, like say from a school district, it was because we wanted to be able to build our business credit so that if it came time, if to tackle this project of building an actual center and establishing a larger space for our community, we can at least say we can contribute in that way where we would have business credit, because prior to opening La Malta, our operating budget real on an annual basis really was paid for through 20% of the proceeds of the turkey trot. So we would keep 20%, and that would cover all of our operational costs, and then 80% was donated to organization or grassroots effort helping to serve the most vulnerable communities during that time. And then once we took on the Malta, there was a total different ball game, right? Now we're having like every month, just super transparent. It costs us around 6,400 to keep the doors open on a monthly basis, and that's mainly rent, and then like water, trash, internet. That's pretty much, and supplies, the consumable supplies that we use. And so yeah, the community has been super supportive. They're just trying to figure out how they can help and do what they can. Um, and so we're not giving up hope. We're, in fact, hoping together. And that feels a whole lot lighter than when we first had to make this announcement.
And
I think
we
I
have
have
so
a grant
many.
writer for you.
Oh,
So
sorry. Go ahead. Sorry,
I
Arlington,
was
go
gonna say
ahead.
I think I have a grant writer, that someone that specializes in grant writing. So I will get a hold of them. She's in the living room, so
There you go.
Thank
my
you
wife
so much.
specializes in grant writing. So I'll I'll message. Well, I'll let her know to look into this. So I'll put her in contact with you guys, and we'll go from there. Yeah.
See, this is the beauty about being able to network and share the platform is because we have not just within our group, but we have a lot of our people and even our classmates and alumni that have these experience and expertise. So if you're out there and you're listening in, please reach out to Samoan Solutions. They have their website. Just look up Samoan Solutions and you'll be able to see all the information that's on there that you can reach out to them and also be able to use your expertise to help them to save live Ma'ota, right? Is did I say that right? Um, and you mentioned the books that your mom saved. I'm telling you, as we get older, the new generation coming up, we need to be able to save those treasures the same way your mom has saved those books for you both and your family. We need to be able to share that with our community because history written is so important. Otherwise, we will get so many different stories, so many different knowledges that and not being able to save this building and save what you guys have in store for people, a lot of that will be lost. And so we hope somebody out there will come out and reach out to you both, and we'll do just like what Arlington says. His wife will come out and reach out to you guys, and we'll be able to get more information to help out and see what we can do on our end. Ladies, there is so much going on. What the both of you are trying to do for our community. Uh, what is burnout for the both of you? What is burnout to you both? How are you able to manage and get through work, life, and also your non-organization?
I can say for myself. So burnout to me looks like my 9 to 5. And that's because I'm a teacher. I'm a special education teacher. This is my 20th year in education, but it's only my 5th year in special education as a public school teacher. And before that, I was doing early childhood education and at a private school. So I had a lot of privilege in that early childhood education field. And then once I transitioned over to public school, like shit got real for real. Like it's just, and I think, and I, the year that I started was 2020. And so I'm a brand new teacher in online, uh, you know, learning with my students. And it was hard. And I also, um, you know, yeah, it was just the transition for me to becoming a public school teacher. It was a steep learning curve, but we have a lot of educators in our family, in our community, and so it wasn't anything that I was, you know, thinking of as being like too difficult of a challenge. But I'll tell you that like after distance learning and getting back into the physical classroom, like this generation is a dangerous generation to be teaching. And that's just because they're coming out of a pandemic. None of us have ever lived through a pandemic. We're living through it with them, but they're kids. So they're going to come out and be affected in so many different ways that we never had to experience. And also like culture changes, time changes. A lot of the values that we had instilled in us at an early age, at a young age, are not the same for this new generation. And even just for us as parents too, like we, might be like old school parents, but I have a kid that's in kindergarten, and you know, she she's not going to respond to the old school parenting like my older children who are all adults. Like they're just a different breed
Yep.
kids. And so that job is the job that I get burnt out from. And also like special education teachers, we have so much more going on than what's happening in our actual classroom. And I feel like it's like 5 jobs in one. You're like
Yeah.
a social worker, you're a counselor, you're a case manager, you're an admin, like you're doing all the admin and you're teaching and you're communicating with families. And it's a lot of work, that work. So the community work, it's not that it's a piece of cake, but it's like the thing that I really enjoy doing and I don't mind doing. Um, and kind of helps me stay grounded. And but also, like, just within the last few years, I have moved an hour away from where the Malta is physically located. So I'm finding new ways to balance my time in the organization and doing a lot of online work and applying to
Mhm.
grants and all that type of stuff and meeting with folks and doing things like that. So yeah, like, things are shifting and changing, but we're still finding that balance, as moms, as teachers, as community folks. And yep, that, I mean, that's for me. It's been a journey, and but we still try to make time for ourselves and to be with our family and just be
Yeah.
able to just kick back and hang out.
I think for me, like just like Fanga, I love doing this work. I love being in community. I'm super thankful that like where I'm at right now, every single minute that I have, I'm able to pick exactly what I want to do, and I love doing it. I think burnout for me really shows up when um, when you look at where we're at and we've come so far, and in the same breath we're still experiencing the same challenges in some way, shape, or form, right? And I think that's those are the times where I really experience burnout, because I'm like, man, I really, in my mind, I thought we would be here already, right? And in reality we're just not there yet. And so having to reconcile those frustrations, sometimes it just takes a super heavy toll. I wear like a whole bunch of hats, again, all hats that I've chosen and I love to wear. But I think I've always worked super hard and dedicated my time in areas that I want to, because I've never seen, for me, I just never seen myself living past a certain age. And so the only resource I feel like I can't afford to waste is time. Um, and so I try to front load everything I got, so that way when we do pass this on to the next folks, they're at a better standpoint than it was when we came into the work. And so I don't necessarily experience burnout as far as like my time commitment. I want to be everywhere all the time, and I've found ways to really just deal with the reality that I can't sometimes. But yeah, it's hard to see us stuck in certain areas and certain spaces as a community. Same thing with my family too. When we're still with our family, when we're still running in the same circles on in specific ways, that's where I'm like, man, I'm feeling stretched, and it's best if I retreat into my tiny home for a little bit and pray.
It
I
brings up
go
a
ahead.
good point, and I think you guys
Mhm.
alluded to having that the activities, physical fitness, because it all ties back. Burnout is a real thing, and like we feel it even in our team.
Yeah.
And we were joking about it earlier. Eileen was telling us, you guys also need to get some rest because it shows in y'all's videos, and you're sleep deprived. But I think kind of like what you said, Epi, it hits home. You're dedicated to um, volunteering that extra time for those who love our Samoan people or Polynesian people,
Yeah.
and in addition to your 9 to 5 job, you squeeze in time for your own, whether it's yoga or you know also does running,
Running,
and
yes.
yeah.
Not yoga.
So like it's the same thing. We try to maximize how much can you get done in that 24-hour span, and if you're not sleeping until 2 o'clock and then turn around, like for me, I exercise at 5 in the morning, and then so I really applaud what you guys do because you're doing it based on on your volunteer time, but just continue to encourage you guys also take care of yourself mentally because that burnout I know I had to face a similar issue. Was I always internalize things, and one day I had a breakdown, but it wasn't like I knew I had a breakdown. Um, all of a sudden, I couldn't breathe and I couldn't feel like my left side of my body. And I was driving home, and then I just like did a detour and went back to the hospital, and they said you had an anxiety attack, and I said anxiety attack. Like, why
Oh,
would it? Like, I didn't even do anything serious to where it would trigger that. And they said, well, you internalize a lot of things, so you had a subconscious breakdown where it triggered that mechanism and your body was fighting it. So yeah, uh, you guys are doing a great work, but
yeah. You
just
know,
we're getting in an
sorry.
age where we need to take
Mhm.
care of ourselves.
Yeah. Last night, and that's the one thing about doing our podcast is like when we do our Friday test run, we start to learn about our guests before the show, and then you build this connection and this like respect, like there's just so much respect with those that we bring on the show because a lot of things it's like now you never knew about what was going on behind closed doors. You only see the surface. You see, like for example, the website, you see like all this beautiful things and all the work that's going, but then nobody really thinks about like the family, the sacrifice that you put away from your children, and like for today, I was at my daughter's game, but I also had my work laptop and my laptop for pop. And so, you try to do everything all at one time, and there's not enough time, but you try to use all the time and second that you have because you just never know when you're going to leave. And I just wanted to add to what I'm saying before anything else. Effie, you have a daughter 16 years old that owns a business. How did that happen? Because I'm telling you, it's got to be your hard work of doing so much running around, all this stuff. Must have inspired her to become a business owner. Can you tell us about that? Because I'd like to know so my kids could see that.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Can you hear me good?
Yes.
We good? All right. Yeah, so I guess like one of the things that I always remember when we were growing up, right, is that that feeling of not having enough, right? We it always felt like, like our grandparents, like I say, and I love my grandma with all my heart, but like she really had like a very Makiva mindset. Like she was like, like we can never afford this. We can't do this. We can't, like that's not gonna happen. And that definitely transitioned into our mom. Like our mom used to she used to work at a department store, and they would get this like super fat department catalog, and I had the best time circling all the presents I wanted for Christmas, and I got board game and books. That's what ended up coming every year for us as three siblings growing up in the house. And so I think because of our experience growing up and the relationships that I saw with money and just that feeling that I like it's hard to shake, right? So I always wanted my kids to feel like they understood that we have options, and that options come by way of education. They come by way of having, grit and having, courage to take risks and take chances. And so um, they understood at a very young age, the value of a dollar, and we would do that in different ways. Like they would ask me if they can buy something at the store, and then I literally just break down to them, okay, so this is how much mommy makes in an hour, and so now you're wanting me, like, let's think about that. Do you want is this match to me working this amount of time, because that's really what we're trading here. We're trading our time. And so some of that would go over their head, but then you see the fruit of these conversations happen when they're like, "Oh, mom, I want to build a business." All right, we used to do garage sales. I used to coupon heavy, but I never really kept any of the stuff for ourselves. We would do garage sales and sell it. And so my girls are very familiar with entrepreneur type activities, And so, yeah, my youngest, Alicia, she decided she would always make bracelets. Like, and she wouldn't make bracelets, like ask to get beads. She would just find beads wherever we were at. And she'd be like, oh, look at this. I can make this into a bracelet or whatever. And then when she was in high school, um, is when we actually moved from South City to Oakland. And because we moved, she, in our financial situation shifted and our priority shifted. She was like, she was getting a no to a lot of her requests, and so she was like, well, what if I start my own business or if I get my own job? I said, yeah, then you can still, you'll be able to buy things that you want. And so that's what she did. She started Little Jewelerly. She actually started it prior to taking Pacifico Boss Up, and then Pacifico Boss Up really helped her to be able to legitimize and think through where she wants to take her business. And so she is like a pop-up vendor. She takes orders online. She loves it. She's helped our family get through, the struggle bus and to make it to the paycheck line, whenever we could. And so I'm super proud of her. I'm super proud of her. When you see her out there, she's like, really engaging. And a lot of that is because, not only because, like we have conversations about financial um literacy and money in our house growing up, but also just because she's been around community since she was born. We started Samoan Solutions when she was like 3 years old, I think. And so
Wow.
she's always been in these spaces. And it's wonderful to see her run her own business, and then now she's the coordinator for Nesian Night Market, which is our night market that is full of Melanesian, Micronesian, Polynesian vendors and a couple of allies up in there,
Huh.
um, for good measure. And so it's awesome. So she gets to grow her network. She gets to see other Pacifica business owners and meet them and learn things from them and barter their skills with her skills. Like, it's awesome. It's really
Was
rewarding as a mom to watch her.
y- was Pacifica Blossom? I noticed that was also another program, right? So was that inspired by her? Was that the reason why you guys came up with that
Uh,
program?
I think we actually just came up with it because that we knew that there was a need for an entrepreneurship program. Again, because of the way that our time is, like I said mentioned earlier, there's a lot more organizations out there now that are serving our people. So we're like really intentional about what we're doing, and we're looking at what are our nonprofits not handling, or what are the services that where we can fill in the gaps, so that way we're not reinventing the wheel or doing the same thing. And at the time there wasn't anyone offering entrepreneurship classes to our youth, and so that's how basically how Pacifico Boss Up started. And then um, it it worked out great because as a finisher project for Pacifico Boss Up, when you're done with the program, you are either working to launch your business or pitch your business to a live audience at Nesian Night Market. And so that's always great. Like, it's so fun. They learn from identifying what problem they would like to solve. They and with their business, is it going to be a product base or service base? They hold Pacifico Boss Up firesides where we bring and they have curated questions that they want to ask them to pick their brain. And then we take them out into the to go to pop-up style places like flea markets and then also like higher end pop-up style markets. And then we visit the brick and mortars shops of our Pacific Islander business owners, and they get to see them in action. And so it's been really fun. We love Pacifica Bossa and our young bosses.
Yeah,
That
I
is,
also
go ahead.
wanted to just add something, which is that Epi's she does have her daughter who is a business owner, but literally Epi has like entrepreneurship in her genes. like as kids, just like growing up and her identifying early on, like if I want something, I'm gonna have to go out there and get it. Like Epi would literally like see that there's school fundraisers where you have to go sell candy, or and Epi was like, oh well, I don't have no candy, but I have this notebook, so let me go knock on the neighbors' doors and sell them not a notebook, not a notebook, one sheet of paper from the notebook. And I was like, girl, what are
Cheapy.
you doing? And then like, but she was just in elementary school, and like the neighbors were so gracious, and I think a couple of them actually bought sheets of paper. But then like our grandmother, because we were living in her neighborhood, and like she somehow found out,
Jesus.
somebody in our family found out and was like, Epi, you cannot be going door to door soliciting, like selling these little sheets of paper like to people. But then I realized that Epi has that in her genes, but also because our dad is the biggest hustler like you have ever seen. And I think that that has to do with him growing up in town, growing up in Makauku, being close to the town, and always having to be out there as a kid, like hustling for that money, right? Like
Yeah.
this guy, like all these other kid vendors that you see when you go to Poli, they're selling, whatever they can sell.
Hmm.
They're out there entertaining people to make money. Like, it's just kind of like something that was in him and also in his parents and a lot of our family that lived there close to town. Like they had dance groups, they were entertainers, and that's how they made their money. That's how they made their living. And I think that that's whether we knew it or not as kids, like Epi definitely picked up the hustler gene, and she done passed it on down to Alicia. And now we have Pacifica Boss Up, and yeah, it's a cool thing. And we also kind of are inspired by other people too. We know that there's folks out in Utah who have had like
Oh yeah.
uh, youth business launches and pitches and things like that. And so we definitely when we see those kind of things, we want to be sure, be able to bring them
Yeah.
to our youth here.
Look,
Yeah.
it's a good message that you're sending, Epi, because people don't realize that there's always a way to make a buck. And
Mhm.
I know my family always teases me. They come here and they see my big gangas of recycle cans out there. Like,
Yeah, even
you
that.
recycle cans? I'm like, what's wrong with that? Because those were the values that I grew up with in Samoa.
Mhm.
Liking up, and then me and my mom would go and take it, to make a buck. So ipolongaga ko iya, because we whaamanga iai si kemi, like garage sales I mentioned. We do garage sales all the time. Um, there's always a way to make a buck. So no, great thing. I wanted to go back on. There was a subject we talked about last night, and I really appreciate this part that you guys shared last night. Our Samoan kids they're not really exposed to the culture, so they go online and they see all these different videos, and there's so many mixed messages depending on what level they're
Mhm.
watching, and it can be confusing. So you guys have bridged that gap, and you bring in these I call them scholars, right? You bring them in, sit them down with your kids, and now they can break down that cultural understanding for them. So go ahead and share that and how valuable that is to the kids you guys work with.
Yeah, it's so that is our Anganuu community teaching series, and it stemmed from just that, right? We're seeing a whole lot of conversations online that are amped up. A lot of them turn aggressive really quickly, and because it's online, no one has any sort of accountability to respect, and also, to mind the way that they're talking to each other. And then no matter what it is that you're receiving, whether it is confirmation or that what you thought was right, or the realization that what you understood may be wrong, whatever it is, you just log off of your social media, and then you have no one to walk that through with, right? At least a lot of our families here, in the Bay Area, they don't have a lot of people to walk that through unless they're tied to a church or unless they're actively practicing culture. And again, another thing that we identified was that people are not practicing for a lot of different reasons that seem to not that like kind of seems to indicate to us that we may have been missing the mark when we're out there as far as what some of these practice intent are intended to be and how we're actually practicing them now. And so the Anganu'u Community Teach-In series is a space for us to be able to learn from our cultural scholars, cultural practitioners about specific cultural practices that we have the original intent as far as they're aware and they're and then they share their knowledge and expertise in that specific area and how they've noticed the evolution of the practice where it's becoming where it's coming where it to be where it is now, right? And having that understanding and having them have a space to discuss among community members really just one, it changes the tone, right? It definitely changes the tone of how people walk in into the space and how they interact with each other. And it's a beautiful way of us to be able to a beautiful example of how we build a community and how easy it is for us when we're in isolation to not realize all the time how much we need to be back in community, especially when we're trying to understand our culture, because our culture is based off of a collective community, sort of foundation, right? Which is very different from what we're taught here in America. And so the topics that we've gone over, I think our first topic was the relationship between faith and culture, and we talked about Messina, the Tao o Samoa. We talked about Falavalave, Nu'u o Matai, and then this next one coming up for this month is Ngangana Samoa. And so um, every single teach-in session, it's actually not only open to you, so there's a lot of different age groups in the room and in the space. And so it's so interesting to hear their stories and what their understanding was of certain aspects of our culture and how their understanding has framed the way that they look at culture and if they decide to practice or not. So, and Talavo, he's one of our board members, and he's also our nephew, Talavo Mavai. He is our coordinator for the Anganu'u Teaching Series, and so he does a really great job out with organizing all the things for it. Shout out to Vo.
I really love that how you guys explained that last time because it's so important to bring someone so they can have that interaction. You can only
Hmm.
see so much online, and then even when you're trying to ask, a simple question in a comment section, and then you get like five different people attacking you because you're trying to do some research. But yeah, I love what you guys are doing. We got a comment here online. Happy Mother's Day. Watching from the beautiful Aotearoa, Wellington, New Zealand. Sina Leo.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yay!
Happy Mother's
Awesome.
Day as well.
So, ladies, I got a question to ask you. Throughout the journey that you guys had gone through, what are the personal lessons that you've learned from all that you have gone through your journey with creating Samoa Solutions to now?
Maybe some of the lessons I've learned is like we are each of us are like living libraries. So whatever all this time that we're spending out here collecting all this knowledge, building up all this experience and all this and that, like it's like if we don't share that with people, then when we die, so does the library. So
Mm.
the more that we open ourselves up to sharing experiences and knowledge with people, the um, the better. And I think that another piece of that too is like knowing our worth. Like both Epi and I are born here in the Bay Area in California, lived in Samoa for me it was only 4 years. I was just there for high school. But I think like we're probably like the most unlikely people to start a nonprofit that is centered around culture and the Samoan culture in you know in particular. But our families and our schools that we've attended in Samoa, and our community in Samoa and people there, they really affirmed our identity as Samoans. And we arrived there, and our grandfather was like, "Esa lengangu malfasa moa kai mi uma," like, so we probably were like mute for the first 3 months growing, living in Samoa, and we're just like sponges, like soaking up everything around us. Epi was at mid-kif. I was a freshman at Leone High School, and like learning from the kids because they were the easiest teachers to be around, and learning from our cousins, living together with all of our first cousins, our first bloods, at our family land and our ancestral home. Um, and so, we're kind of like, oh, like people would look at us and think of us as being plastic, right? Like they never told us that when we were there, but I think like that's what kids would equate us to nowadays, as being plastic, or, not being someone enough. But I think that our families did such a good job at instilling in us that no matter what, and even at school too. And shout out to to your dad, Arlington, one of my favorite teachers. Like, I think our teachers did a really good job of affirming that in us too, and instilling a lot of values in us that helped us build our confidence that no matter where we go in the world, we're always going to be someone. And
Mm.
so the more that we can pour that into other people, the better. Whether they lived in Samoa, never lived in Samoa, lived there all their lives, stuff like that. I think we have such a good, we've had good experiences on our own as growing up in the diaspora, but then also being able to live in Samoa, that we can kind of see it from both sides. And I was just lucky enough that both of my two sons that are my eldest children, they got to live in Samoa too. And my eldest son graduated from Leone High School in 2017. And then the second son, he was there in 2017 and was there until 2018. So, each of them have had their experience of living in Samoa as well. And now they're out in the military, and they're wherever they go in the world. They know who they are. They know where they're from. They know that no matter if I speak a little bit of Samoan, don't speak any of it, like I'm still gonna be Samoan. I'm always gonna be Samoan, right? So those things are things that we hope to carry forward. Still, we're always going to be learning. It's life is about learning, and we're never going to know everything. But those are some of the big things for us. And I think just like having community around us, right, and maybe kind of like replicating that village experience, no matter where we are. I think that's always
Yeah.
helpful too.
Thank you. Yeah, and thank you for the shout out to the old man. Um, he loves the angu, so I still do our Samoan studies with him. He's still sharp at
Love
it
that.
as it is. And also want to say for your kids that are in the military, want to say thank you, for your service as well. They're probably missing you on Mother's Day.
Aw.
I know I did when I first joined. You know, you feel old enough, but then when it comes to these holidays, or you start remembering, like, oh man, I wonder what mom's doing. So, yeah,
Thank you so much. Yeah, and happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there as well.
Yeah,
You're up, Epi.
I think for me, like some of the most important lessons that I learned are definitely that our treasure is in our relationships.
Mhm.
Really, like really and truly, like um, that's where it's at. Like if we're not in community and we're not building relationships with one another, um, can you still get stuff done? Sure, you can, but it might not be the easiest way, and it might not be the most fulfilling path to get to the finish line, right? It's so much more beautiful when we're doing it together. It's so much more impactful when everyone is at the table or more people are at the table and they all feel included. And um, it also keeps us keeps us in a space where we are being considerate of one another and one another's perspectives, right? Because we're not always going to get along. And it's very easy in America for me to say for myself, oh, these people, they don't know how I am. I don't like what they're doing, so I'm just going to do me and be all, just keep it pushing, right? And I'm so thankful that that's not our perspective on life, and that's not the way that we have been able to walk through these last 17 years. Has really been shoulder to shoulder with our brothers and sisters all over. Um, and it's not only a great way of life for me, but it's been beautiful for my children to see. Um, I'm been a double parent for the majority of their life. Um, and even though they understand and they experience, their father not being present, they really are, they don't feel too big of a void because our community has really come in at so on so many levels in so many instances and help to lighten the load for us. And it's not always been money, it's not always been things. Sometimes it's been like a text message, a phone call.
Oh,
It's been a sounding board for me to be like, yo, I just feel like I am the worst mom ever. I need to
mhm.
figure this some things out. And so I'm so thankful of the lesson that we learned in this work, which was to put our value and our treasure in our relationships, because it's so much more. It's been so much more fulfilling for us. And then I think the other big lesson that I learned is really just to extend grace um, to others in this work, to my kids. Often, they all both of our families, as far as the kids go, they've been voluntold pretty much all their life to do this work and do community work, and um, and sometimes that comes with grace. Most time it comes with a lot of expectation, and I have to remind myself that if I want them, if this is something that I want for them, I say I'm building it for them, then I have to be able to extend grace to them, especially them as my children. And so I think those are two of the most important lessons, and really just that nobody's coming to save us, no one's coming to build these things out. Um, I believe our heavenly Father has given us everything, always provides everything we need, and whatever time and season we're in, and so we can bury our talents and bury these gifts from God, or we can activate them and put them to good use. And so I think those are the three things for me.
Yeah, amen to that. I think we kind of echo the same sentiment there. I always say it, you know, what good is it to have all that knowledge, especially when it comes to culture wise, and to take it to your grave?
Hmm.
What good did that do to
Mhm.
us? And what good did that do to um, passing down that knowledge to the next generation? So if you want to ensure that that knowledge is passed down, share that wisdom with others. And it's just kind of a reminder of what you guys said earlier, your book collection. So I'm also interested in what you have. And if you need some books donated, I'll see what you don't have. And yeah, I'll send you guys some of my collection. Yeah.
Well, with that said, ladies, it's coming to an end of our podcast. I really appreciate both of you coming on the hot seat. This is the first time we had two, so this is amazing. And just wanted to say also that we're so proud of you both. Just having to learn about you both last night and what you do is really, here's the funny thing. I've learned of you guys before, and then when I saw you guys follow us on our Facebook page, like, oh my gosh, did you guys see this? And then when Lena mentioned that she had added you guys as one of the hot seat guests, and it just blew my mind. Because I'm like, it's crazy because God puts people in place where needed, right? And so I hope you guys know that not only do you help your community, you also help us as well to motivate and to keep pushing. Knowing that you guys are going through what you're going through makes me realize that we're not alone. We're not alone in this, and we're also fighting a battle for our people, for our culture, and to keep things alive, and to share knowledge that we need to, to continue to spread. And so, with that said, ladies, thank you so much again. Is there any last words you'd like to say before we end? And before I turn it to Arlington?
I think
Uh,
equally. Oh, go ahead, Fanga.
I want to just give a shout out to all of our fellow Lions out there. We have on our board Merita Lene. She's also class of 2000. And then we've done so much work and come across so many Lions like just out here in the community. Shout out to brother Chris Tassi out in Hawaii. He and I both worked at SFUSD for a hot minute, but it's just like you find your people and then it's like, like you just pick up where you left off. And even if they're not even the same classes, you kind of have that thing in common and you recognize, like, you know, what it means to be a lion and be out there in the world. And also shout out to Auntie Lena. Her maiden name is Teo. So anybody who's Auntie Lena's classmate, I believe she's 83. I don't know if it's 83 or 86. I could be wrong. I think it's class of 83. But Auntie Lena Teo, she's here also in the Bay Area and she does a lot of nonprofit work and she's been so supportive of us as well. And then just every other lion that's ever like donated anything to us, Lena and her sister Danielle in Hawaii, like folks that are just, they've heard of us, they've known what we've been doing, and they've been, supporting us over the years and keeping tabs on us and just checking in here and there and providing support for us and everything that we do. So thank you all so much, Lion Pride Worldwide. Love y'all.
I just want to say thank you so much for having us on as guests. We're really honored. We're equally proud of y'all for being able to provide this platform for our people of Oceania to be able to come and talk story and share space, um, because we understand that it takes time, right? It's a labor of love. And so it's definitely something we can relate to. And we're so thankful that you decided to invite us into this space and onto the platform, um, because we just had a great time. It was so awesome last night to hear y'all talking. I've been catching up on the episodes on my commute back and forth, and so it's been an amazing experience to share space with y'all this evening. Thank you for the resources that you shared last night and even today. We pray nothing but blessings over y'all moving
Likewise.
forward. And we can't wait to find out who the next guest is going to be on the
Oh,
podcast.
Yeah. So again, um, thank you guys for everything that you shared. The works itself. You've done a tremendous amount of work for the Samoan community. I also learned a lot from you guys, and I really enjoyed this podcast as well. Um, what I also enjoyed about this podcast just tonight, just listening to you guys bringing the spiritual side back, and always a reminder to ourselves that you're always trying to lean on your own abilities and you try to work
Mm.
and work based on your understanding and yeah, luang ako lang yung malos. But I like how you guys bring back the spiritual side. And I know that I've been attacking the missionaries a lot in my podcast, and I don't think I've ever acknowledged, I am a Christian, and I think some people look at me, my videos and interpret it as, oh, mukha ang asal lang ako." But it like Lasso said, this wasn't an accident that you guys showed up tonight, right? The message was felt across, but then we also learned how to share resources. Who knew that what you were lacking was also something that was available in my household and things that
Mm.
I'm able to offer. And I'm over here in Oklahoma. and I didn't know about the needs that you guys need in the Bay Area. But the Bay Area is, I was born in Hayward, so dad, like
Hey.
my brothers and sisters were born in San Francisco. One was born in Hawaii. So anything that happens in the Bay Area is still like it means a lot to me. So I feel like I need to invest more in this issue. So um, I know one's a Raider and one's a Niner. So I think the last time we had is Chicago Bears who was living in San Jose. But yeah, so a lot of love to my Bay Area folks and Pastor Tassi, Chris Tassi. Yeah, a lot of love out there in Hawaii as well. And thanks to all those who are viewing. Don't take this as a Leonia thing. We do give love to everyone else. So, but give us our moment. This is our time when lions meet.
Yes.
That's the pride that we have in each other. So,
Yes.
if your ears are burning, hearing about Leona this, Leona that, well, that's just the way the pride gathers. So, over to you, Lasso.
With that said, to everybody out there, all the mothers, happy Mother's Day, and aunties, I know you're also mothers as well to kids who you don't, want to deal with. And to all of you out there as well, please listen to, if you haven't watched the beginning of the podcast, please listen to the podcast because there are some important things that we need to be sent out and spread across. So we need to save Le Malta. That's the biggest thing. And so I'll put the videos out there as well. Samoan Solutions, they have a website, look them up and take a look. They have a lot of good things, resources for our community. Um, oh, we have a comment. And one of the comment real quick is from Tumalu Eileen. So, Samoa Solution, amen to labor of love. And then Tori, we have Tori says hi to you all. And so if you're just about to come in, we're about to end and we don't want to stay late at night. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, ladies, again, thank you so much. You have a blessed Mother's Day and a blessed Sabbath day, and to God be all the glory. You guys have a good night.
Amen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mang weird
Bye.
po. So far before.
Bye.